The business I started 40 years ago is now providing the scoring and associated services to all the top tennis events all over the world. Now called Flightscope Tennis, we work with the world's top events and players, tournaments like Wimbledon, Grand Slam events, Davis Cup, Fed Cup, you name it, we're there. When I started the business, I was living in France, working as a consultant in big companies, helping them to sort their computer systems. I was with the computer director and he said, "Stephen, why don't we do a system for the French tennis championships?" Back in those days, the only way that they collected scores from all the courts was using a walkie-talkie. And the guy at the other end had some chalk and a blackboard. What was needed for the best management of the tournament was a live feed from every court throughout the day. It just so happened that the French Open was on at the time, and the tournament director said, "Let's do it." But there's a big gap between that moment and actually having a device that you can actually use. So we actually built a device where you press a button to score a point for one player, and the opponent, you press the other button. You couldn't go into a shop and buy a PC or a phone or a tablet. You had to make everything from scratch. So now what we had to do was to make sure that the umpire was happy with having a device like that for him to score the match, and connected up scoreboards and the web. But that was maybe 20 years later. So people often ask, how on earth did you come up with this idea and then got it built and installed? I guess it comes back to a moment in school when at the end of a physics lesson, the teacher came to me and said, would I like to try and make something with these transistors? So we decided to make a calculator which could add two numbers together. That was all a fascinating experience as far as I was concerned, because you start with a load of stuff and you finish up with a product. I left university having done a master's in computer science, which was the only degree of that nature in 1966. The main way of using this knowledge was to go into big companies and tell people how best to use these new devices. So while I was at university, I was able to play team games. Afterwards, I played hockey in London for some of the top teams there. That led me then to start talking about doing computer systems for sports events. The chief executive of Wimbledon suddenly turned up and said, "What are you doing?" "Oh," he said, "come and see me." So having got Wimbledon as a very solid client, we found ourselves being able to get into the offices of all the tournaments that are really important in the world, and slowly you get onto the road because you get known. You're the go-to person. 20 years ago, we actually got the job to score all the tennis matches all over the world, every day, every week, and every month. The way in which we were doing the scoring required it to be integrated with the scoreboards that were on the courts. And that is something that requires lorries and infrastructure and people flying stuff around for you. A non-trivial task. So we linked ourselves with some people that made scoreboards. So now we have a situation where we're getting the score from every court onto a scoreboard on every court, but we haven't got the serve speed. Flightscope at the time weren't looking to do the serve speed of tennis, but because they were already doing golf and baseball as well, tennis was also a fit. Now we need to know the position of the ball as part of the court in which it's playing. Ball tracking using the latest cameras enabled us to be able to supply lots of information to lots of people, including the top coaches. The data that we are using to tell whether the ball is in or out is also then relayed to the coaching. They think it's wonderful. 40 years on, people say, well, you must be really rich. No, but we've had a lot of fun. Traveling the world with elite sportsmen, they often play golf, and so you say, well, I'll go and play with you. And that's not something you can even get a ticket for.